13 things you should quietly eliminate from your life. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest philosopher kings and a central figure in Stoic thought, once observed, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." At first glance, it might seem like a simple observation, but its depth is profound. Within this single sentence lies the entire blueprint for a meaningful, resilient, and intentional life. If the quality of our lives is shaped not by external events, but by our internal dialogue, by the lens through which we see the world, then real change, the kind that transforms us from within, must begin in the quiet space of our own minds. With that idea as our compass, this journey explores 13 powerful habits, mindsets, and tendencies that subtly hold us back, and that we often carry with us without realizing the weight they add to our lives. These are not always loud or obvious obstacles. In fact, many of them operate quietly in the background of our daily routines, conversations, and thoughts. That's why the key to change isn't dramatic confrontation. It's quiet elimination, without fanfare, without public declarations. It's about noticing what no longer serves your growth, gently letting it go, and making room for what does. Each of these 13 elements we're about to explore represents a common thread in our modern struggles, patterns we've picked up from society, relationships, or outdated beliefs we've unconsciously carried for years. The goal here isn't to point fingers or criticize. It's to offer insight, to shine a light on parts of our inner world we may have overlooked. And most importantly, it's to invite reflection. This is not a lecture. It's a conversation, one that you're encouraged to engage with, whether by journaling your thoughts, discussing these ideas with someone close to you, or simply taking a quiet moment to ask yourself, does this still belong in my life? As you move through each section, you may find that some ideas resonate more than others. That's perfectly natural. Every person's inner work looks different. What matters is that you're here, taking the time to tune in and turn inward. So as we begin, keep Marcus Aurelius' wisdom close at hand. If our thoughts truly shape the quality of our lives, then the act of clearing out the mental clutter, the unhelpful stories, habits, and emotional noise, is not just an act of self-care. It's a profound act of self-creation. You don't have to announce your transformation to the world. In fact, the most lasting changes often happen quietly beneath the surface, where real growth takes root. Let's begin. The thing number one. There's a certain kind of heartbreak that cuts deeper than most, the kind that comes not from strangers or enemies, but from those we once trusted, those we called friends. When someone you once let into the vulnerable corners of your life ends up causing you pain, the instinct to explain yourself can be overwhelming. You may feel a need to clarify what went wrong, to defend your actions, to make them see your side. But here's the truth. You don't owe them anything, not your explanations, not your emotional labor, and certainly not your peace of mind. When someone wounds you, especially someone close, the most powerful move you can make is not retaliation, not confrontation, but quiet distance. Walking away without a dramatic exit can feel counterintuitive. After all, we're often taught to resolve, to talk it out, to seek closure. But some situations don't require a neatly tied bow. Some people aren't ready or willing to hear your truth. And forcing yourself to explain something to someone who has already shown a lack of respect for your feelings only prolongs your pain. There may come a time when this person returns, perhaps asking for a favor or trying to re-enter your life as if nothing ever happened. It's in these moments that your boundaries are tested. You don't need to be cruel or loud. A simple and firm no is enough. Declining to engage is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's self-respect. And it's a declaration that your peace matters more than reopening old wounds. Letting time do its work is often the most effective way to heal. You don't have to orchestrate some final reckoning. Life has a way of revealing truths in its own time. Your only job is to take care of your own well-being. That means focusing on your own growth and protecting your emotional space. And sometimes that requires letting go quietly and completely. It's not a betrayal of your values to distance yourself from someone who has repeatedly disrespected you. On the contrary, it's one of the most courageous acts of self-love. You deserve relationships rooted in mutual respect, where your presence is valued, not taken for granted. Walking away doesn't make you heartless, it makes you whole. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. Don't waste your energy trying to change someone who isn't willing to understand. Instead, channel that energy into becoming your most grounded, resilient self. That's where your real power lies, not in convincing others, but in choosing yourself, quietly and unapologetically. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 2. As we move through life, we're constantly setting goals, some big, some small, some deeply meaningful, and others adopted almost by default. We're told from an early age to aim high, to hustle, to keep climbing. But rarely are we encouraged to pause and ask ourselves whether the goals we're chasing still align with who we are becoming. Over time, it's easy to find ourselves pursuing things out of habit, expectation, or ego rather than genuine desire. That's why one of the most liberating decisions you can make is to quietly let go of goals that no longer serve you. This doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're making space for clarity. It means you're choosing depth over distraction. In a world that constantly pressures us to keep performing, producing, and proving ourselves, it can feel counterintuitive, even rebellious, to step away from a goal. But the truth is, some goals lose their relevance as we grow. What once fueled your ambition may now feel empty or forced. And holding on to these outdated targets out of pride or fear can drain your time, energy, and joy. Letting go, however, doesn't require a grand announcement. You don't need to explain yourself to the world. You don't need to justify the pivot or broadcast the shift in direction. Quiet transitions are often the most powerful. When you make changes subtly, without fanfare, you protect your intentions and give yourself the freedom to adjust as needed. There's a quiet strength in privacy, a strength that allows you to change your mind without the pressure of external judgment. Think of your life as a strategic journey. Every step, every decision, every priority should be aligned with your evolving values and sense of purpose. That's not to say everything will always be perfectly clear, but the more honest you are with yourself about what matters most, the easier it becomes to steer your life with intention. The challenge is learning to listen to your inner compass, especially when it points away from a path you once worked hard to follow. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, captured this idea beautifully when he wrote, "It is not that we have so little time, but that we lose so much. The life we receive is not short, but we make it so. We are not ill-provided, but use what we have wastefully." His words remind us that our time is not the issue, it's how we choose to spend it. Chasing goals that no longer serve us is one of the surest ways to waste the most precious resource we have. Letting go of unnecessary goals doesn't signal failure. It signals wisdom. It means you're brave enough to question what once made sense and choose a path that reflects who you are now. When you do this quietly and consciously, you allow yourself to evolve with grace, and that's when your life begins to truly align with your deepest intentions. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 3. The end of a relationship, whether romantic, platonic, or something in between, can be an emotionally charged and vulnerable moment in anyone's life. These endings often come with a swirl of hurt, confusion, disappointment, and even anger. It's only natural to want to talk about it, to make sense of it, and to seek support. But in that very human desire for connection and validation, many of us fall into a trap, oversharing. When a relationship ends, especially one that held deep meaning, the details can feel like heavy stones pressing on your chest. The urge to vent, to explain your side, To let others know what really happened can be strong. But publicly dissecting the reasons for a breakup, especially the intimate, emotional, or messy parts, rarely brings the relief we're looking for. More often, it leads to gossip, misunderstanding, and deeper emotional entanglement. What begins as a search for comfort can quickly become a spectacle, one that disrespects the privacy of both parties involved and turns a personal process into a public event. There is a kind of quiet strength in choosing not to speak, in holding sacred what was once shared between two people. That doesn't mean you deny the pain or pretend the relationship never existed. It means you choose dignity over drama. You choose to protect your own peace, rather than invite others into a situation they don't fully understand. When you keep the end of a relationship private, you give yourself space to process what really matters. Your growth, your healing, and your understanding of what this chapter meant to you. Often, the need to overshare comes from unresolved emotion, hurt that hasn't been acknowledged, questions that still linger, self-worth that feels shaken. But instead of handing those emotions over to the crowd, consider turning inward. Self-dialogue, journaling, therapy, or simply sitting in honest reflection can offer more healing than any external validation ever could. This isn't about bottling things up, it's about choosing the right outlet, one that allows you to heal, not one that fuels your pain by making it performative. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher whose reflections continue to resonate across the centuries, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words are especially poignant when navigating the aftermath of a relationship. You cannot control how the other person behaved, how the story unfolded, or what others might say. But you can control how you carry yourself in the aftermath. You can choose to focus on your own emotional sovereignty. By resisting the urge to overshare, you protect more than just your reputation or the memory of the relationship. You protect your energy. You preserve your emotional space. And perhaps most importantly, you reaffirm to yourself that your healing is sacred, personal, and worth more than temporary attention or validation. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 4. We've all been there, caught in the swell of an intense moment. Maybe you're in a meeting where you feel misunderstood or disrespected, or perhaps you're in a conversation that's spiraling into conflict. Your heart starts racing. Your voice wants to rise. The urge to lash out, to be heard, to dominate the moment with volume and emotion feels almost primal. But in these moments of pressure, the real test of strength lies not in how loud you can be, but in how still you can remain. Raising your voice in anger might feel cathartic in the moment, like a release valve for everything building inside. But what does it really accomplish? More often than not, it alienates others, weakens your message, and leaves you feeling drained or regretful. Think about the last time you watched someone lose control in front of others. Did it inspire confidence? Did it make you feel safe or open to their perspective? Probably not. Now think about someone who stayed composed while emotions ran high, someone whose calm presence seemed to anchor the room. That's real influence. That's true authority. Learning to speak softly in the midst of chaos is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending you're unaffected. It's about transforming that raw energy, anger, frustration, disappointment, into something purposeful. It's about choosing presence over impulse, clarity over chaos. It's the art of emotional alchemy, turning heat into light, tension into intention. When you keep your voice steady, even as the world around you is shaking, you send a powerful message. Not just to others, but to yourself. You say, "I am in control. I do not need to raise my voice to raise my value." This inner discipline doesn't develop overnight. It's a practice built moment by moment, one emotional wave at a time. And each time you succeed in meeting anger with grace, you reinforce your ability to lead yourself and others with maturity and dignity. Heraclitus, the ancient philosopher, once wrote, To be even-minded is the greatest virtue. In that simple phrase lies a profound challenge. Can you remain balanced when everything around you is trying to throw you off course? Can you stand in the eye of the storm and still speak with calm and clarity? Because that's where your real power lives, not in the volume of your voice, but in the steadiness of your spirit. So the next time frustration rises and your instinct is to shout, pause. Take a breath. Feel the power in your restraint. Let your words be chosen, not flung. In a world that expects noise, your calm is not weakness, it's a superpower. One that builds trust, preserves your integrity, and turns moments of tension into opportunities for true leadership. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 5. It happens more often than we care to admit. You're in a conversation and someone's name comes up, the tone shifts, eyes roll, and suddenly criticism flows freely. Maybe you even find yourself adding to it, not necessarily out of malice, but because it feels natural in the moment. There's something oddly bonding about shared disapproval. But the truth is, speaking negatively about others, especially when they're not around to defend themselves, is one of the fastest ways to erode trust, both in others and within yourself. Think back to a time when you overheard someone tearing another person down. Didn't it plant a seed of doubt? Didn't you wonder what they might say about you when you're not in the room? That's the quiet cost of gossip and criticism. It doesn't just stain the person being spoken about. It follows the one speaking. People may nod along, laugh, even agree, but deep down they're registering something important. This is not someone I can fully trust. It's easy to justify. Maybe the person really did something frustrating. Maybe your feelings are valid. But having a valid emotion doesn't make it necessary or wise to spread it outward. Choosing not to speak poorly about someone is not about being fake or overly nice. It's about being intentional. It's about valuing your integrity more than your momentary need to vent. You don't have to like everyone. You don't have to pretend that difficult people don't exist. But you can choose how you respond to them. And in that choice lies a kind of quiet power. When faced with someone who challenges your patience, it can feel like release to vent your judgments. But what if instead you paused and shifted your lens? What if you reminded yourself that every person carries unseen struggles, invisible burdens, and deeply human flaws? That shift, from frustration to curiosity, from judgment to empathy, doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it helps you rise above it. It helps you maintain your own character, your own peace. This approach isn't easy. It takes practice and emotional maturity. But over time, choosing not to engage in negativity turns you into someone people respect, not just for what you say, but for what you choose not to say. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about transforming how you handle it. You become someone who doesn't just preserve peace, you create it. Someone who navigates relationships with grace and discernment. Someone others feel safe around. In the end, every word you speak is a reflection of who you are. Spreading negativity may feel like a release, but it leaves behind a residue, a lingering sense of bitterness that dims your presence. Choosing kindness, or at the very least, silence, leaves a different legacy. It builds bridges. It keeps your conscience clear. And most importantly, it keeps your energy focused on what really matters, becoming a person of substance, not someone weighed down by pettiness. So the next time you're tempted to speak ill of someone, pause. Ask yourself, does this serve me or does it shrink me? Choose wisely, because the words you let go of say far more about you than the person you're speaking about. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 6. Comparison is a silent thief. It sneaks into your thoughts, often unnoticed, and begins to erode your confidence, your contentment, and your sense of self. In today's world, where achievements, beauty, and success are constantly broadcasted and curated across social media, it's easier than ever to look at someone else's life and feel like yours is somehow falling short. You see someone get promoted, travel the world, get married, launch a business, or post about their seemingly perfect life, and suddenly your own milestones feel less significant, your own pace too slow. This habit of comparison is like running on a treadmill that never stops. You're constantly chasing an image, a version of life that might not even be real. You end up exhausted, anxious, and convinced that no matter how far you've come, it's not enough. But the truth is, the more time you spend measuring your progress against someone else's, the less time you spend appreciating the unique, unpredictable, and meaningful journey that is yours alone. Every person is walking a different path, shaped by different experiences, opportunities, and values. Your story is not supposed to look like anyone else's, and thank goodness for that. The richness of life lies in its variety. What makes you valuable is not how closely you mirror someone else's life, but how authentically you live your own. Your quirks, your struggles, your quiet victories, those are not flaws to fix or compare away. They are the raw material of your growth. Imagine flipping the narrative. Instead of seeing your differences as shortcomings, see them as signs of individuality. Celebrate the small wins that others might not notice. Take pride in the lessons you've learned the hard way. Embrace the fact that your path may twist and turn in unexpected ways. Life isn't a linear race where everyone reaches the same finish line in the same order. It's a mosaic, messy, beautiful, and deeply personal. It's okay to feel frustrated at times. It's okay to wish things were different. But don't let that turn into self-sabotage. Every step you've taken, forward or backward, has shaped you. Own that. Learn from it. Grow with it. And most of all, honor it. Because when you stop comparing and start embracing your journey for what it is, you begin to discover a kind of quiet confidence. Not the kind that screams, "I've made it," but the kind that whispers, "I'm right where I need to be." The Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered a timeless piece of wisdom when he said, "Control your perceptions. Direct your actions properly. Willingly accept what's outside your control." These words are an anchor in a world obsessed with measurement. You can't control what others do, achieve, or show off. But you can control how you see your own life, how you act within it, and how you respond to the ever-changing tide of emotions that comparison can stir. So the next time you find yourself looking sideways, pause. Turn inward. Reconnect with your own values, your own pace, your own dreams. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are unfolding, evolving, becoming, and that's not something you can measure next to anyone else. Let's move on to the next thing, number 7. The thing number 7. Understanding the impact of social media on your life. Each of us lives a life filled with unique experiences, personal achievements, challenges, and moments that define who we truly are. Our lives unfold as genuine, deeply personal stories filled with lessons, growth, joy, and sometimes struggle. Social media, on the other hand, presents us with an endless stream of carefully curated snapshots of other people's best moments, their highlights, successes, perfect vacations, and flawless smiles. While fascinating, this polished version of reality rarely captures the full complexity of anyone's true existence, and yet we often unknowingly use it as a benchmark to measure our own lives. This mismatch can cause feelings of inadequacy, dissatisfaction, or even envy, leading us to unfairly doubt our own worth and accomplishments. The importance of intentional use. Because of these potential pitfalls, it becomes increasingly important to use social media thoughtfully and intentionally, rather than mindlessly. Instead of endlessly scrolling, pause and ask yourself, why am I here right now? What do I hope to gain or achieve by spending my time in this space? Perhaps you're seeking inspiration from creative individuals, wanting to stay informed about current events, or looking to connect meaningfully with family and friends. All of these reasons can be valid and beneficial if approached consciously. The key lies in knowing your purpose and sticking to it, rather than becoming passively absorbed in other people's lives at the expense of your own experiences. Practical strategies for mindful engagement. One effective way to cultivate intentional social media use is by setting clear boundaries around the time spent online. Rather than checking your phone whenever there's a lull in your day, designate specific times for browsing, perhaps during your morning coffee, lunch break, or after dinner. Creating scheduled periods helps prevent the constant intrusion of social media into every spare moment, reclaiming those gaps in your day for quiet reflection, creativity, or genuine face-to-face interactions with others. Before opening an app or scrolling through your feed, consciously ask yourself whether your current online interaction serves a meaningful purpose or if it's simply a distraction from boredom, anxiety, or stress. This momentary reflection can dramatically change your relationship with digital platforms, shifting them from compulsive habits to intentional tools for growth and enjoyment. Recognizing when a break is necessary. Sometimes, despite our best intentions, social media can still negatively affect our emotions, mood, or sense of self-worth. If you find yourself feeling consistently drained, unhappy, or self-critical after spending time online, it might be a clear signal that it's time for a digital detox or a temporary break. Taking a break doesn't have to mean abandoning social media forever. It simply means prioritizing your mental health and giving yourself permission to disconnect and recharge. During this pause, explore fulfilling offline activities that help you reconnect with your authentic self. Spend time in nature, pursue a creative hobby, reconnect with loved ones face-to-face, or simply enjoy quiet solitude without external stimulation. Rediscovering the value of your authentic journey. Ultimately, by consciously limiting and thoughtfully managing your social media interactions, you create the necessary mental and emotional space to appreciate your life for what it truly is. A rich, meaningful narrative uniquely yours. Freed from endless comparison, you're better able to recognize and cherish the beauty, struggles, successes, and nuances of your own journey. Instead of passively consuming other people's highlight reels, you actively engage in creating memories and experiences that genuinely enrich your existence. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 8. Understanding the trap of external validation. Most of us, at some point in our lives, have experienced the subtle yet powerful urge to seek approval from those around us. Picture yourself on a brightly lit stage, standing before an audience whose eyes seem to examine every move you make, every word you say, and every decision you take. In such moments, the pressure to please and perform can become overwhelming, almost suffocating. Living life as if you're constantly on display, always adjusting yourself according to what others might think, strips away the freedom to express who you truly are. It confines you to a role that may feel restrictive, uncomfortable, and unnatural, a role dictated by expectations rather than genuine self-expression. Discovering the freedom of inner validation. Now, imagine stepping away from that intimidating stage and entering a quiet, tranquil space where your own voice resonates clearly above all others. In this calm place, the only judgment that matters is your own internal compass, your personal values, beliefs, and goals. When you begin to value your own perspective and trust your instincts, you open yourself up to the liberating power of inner validation. Here, external opinions and judgments become less influential. Instead, you start defining success, happiness, and worth on your own terms, finding genuine fulfillment that isn't dependent on applause or approval from others. Why external approval limits authentic living? Relying heavily on external approval can be likened to wearing clothes that simply don't fit. They might appear acceptable or pleasing to others, but inside, you feel constrained and uncomfortable. This approach ultimately distances you from your true identity and personal desires. Reflect for a moment on your life's most joyful and satisfying experiences. Chances are these moments occurred when you honored your own values, pursued your authentic passions, or made choices that resonated deeply with your own heart, not when you simply followed the expectations of others. Living authentically means letting go of the endless search for validation and embracing the freedom that comes from fully being yourself. Practical steps towards authenticity and self-validation. Transitioning from external validation to self-validation begins with intentional introspection. Before making decisions, pause and sincerely question your motivation. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it aligns with who I truly am, or am I trying to please someone else? Listening closely to your intuition can guide you towards actions that reflect your real self rather than the preferences or demands of others. Additionally, actively acknowledge and attend to your personal needs. Celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how small, learn constructively from setbacks, and continuously remind yourself of your inherent worth. Self-esteem grows from recognizing and appreciating your unique strengths and qualities. Embrace your individuality and cultivate relationships where you're genuinely valued for who you are. Surround yourself with people who encourage your authenticity, respect your boundaries, and celebrate your genuine self. Embracing the journey of self-acceptance. Remember, self-acceptance isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous journey composed of small but significant milestones. Each time you honor your own beliefs, values, and desires instead of yielding to external pressures, you take another step toward genuine freedom. With every courageous choice you make to prioritize your own voice over the noise of the crowd, you strengthen your self-worth and deepen your sense of personal fulfillment. This path, though not always easy, is rich with authentic moments of joy, bravery, and empowerment, guiding you to become the main character of your own inspiring story. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 9. Understanding the hidden cost of perfectionism. In the pursuit of personal growth and improvement, many of us have fallen into the alluring yet treacherous trap of perfectionism. On the surface, striving to be perfect seems admirable, an ideal path toward excellence and success. However, beneath this noble ambition lies a deeply flawed mindset that often results in stress, anxiety, and an unshakable sense of inadequacy. Perfectionists frequently set unrealistic standards, imagining a flawless world that simply doesn't exist, leaving them perpetually dissatisfied no matter how hard they try. Constantly chasing perfection creates relentless internal pressure, fueling an exhausting cycle of self-criticism and fear of failure that can eventually overshadow genuine progress and achievements. Embracing imperfection as a path to growth instead of pursuing an unattainable ideal, true personal growth emerges from the courageous act of embracing imperfection. Life, in all its complexity, resembles a piece of art, a canvas that gains beauty and meaning precisely because of its subtle flaws, unexpected brushstrokes, and unique details. Allowing space for mistakes and imperfections doesn't diminish our value. Rather, it deepens authenticity, encourages creativity, and opens doors to new experiences. By recognizing that mistakes are inevitable and valuable parts of learning, we grant ourselves permission to experiment, take risks, and genuinely grow. Shifting your perspective from perfection to excellence. A helpful way to counter perfectionism is to redefine your goals from seeking absolute perfection to aiming for excellence. Excellence is not about achieving a flawless outcome, but about doing your best with sincerity, intentionality, and awareness that there's always room for continued improvement. It's a healthy ambition, motivating but not debilitating, that drives progress while also respecting human limitations. Excellence appreciates effort, persistence, and determination as much as it values achievement. By shifting your focus toward excellence, you give yourself permission to embrace imperfection as an integral, enriching part of your journey rather than seeing it as an obstacle. Cultivating self-compassion and celebrating progress. Practicing self-compassion is crucial in overcoming perfectionism. When things don't go according to plan, and inevitably sometimes they won't, it's essential to treat yourself with kindness and patience, rather than harsh criticism. Remember, mistakes or setbacks don't reflect your worth as a person. They're merely stepping stones toward growth. Celebrate every attempt, every effort, and every lesson learned along the way, no matter how small these moments might seem. Each experience adds another layer to your understanding, resilience, and maturity. Being gentle with yourself not only reduces stress, but also creates a nurturing internal environment that makes personal improvement sustainable and genuinely rewarding. Redefining success as a journey. Ultimately, moving beyond perfectionism means rethinking what success truly means. Instead of viewing success purely in terms of flawless outcomes, recognize it as a continuous journey filled with discovery, learning, and growth. Every experience, good or bad, contributes meaningfully to your unique narrative. Each challenge you encounter becomes a valuable opportunity to build character, knowledge, and wisdom. Letting go of perfectionistic tendencies empowers you to fully appreciate life's unpredictable, beautiful, and sometimes messy reality. In embracing imperfection, you liberate yourself to experience a more fulfilling, authentic, and joyous existence, one where your humanity is not just accepted, but wholeheartedly celebrated. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 10. The heavy burden of unrealistic expectations. As we navigate the vast sea of life, it is natural, even necessary, to set expectations that help guide us toward our goals, dreams, and visions of happiness. However, these expectations often have a way of ballooning far beyond reality, transforming into fantasies that can overwhelm us, leaving us stranded in seas of disappointment and frustration. Like sailors entranced by mythical sirens, we chase ideals of perfection, perfect relationships, careers, bodies, and lifestyles that continually elude our grasp, no matter how fiercely we pursue them. This relentless chase can obscure the authentic beauty of our everyday experiences, making it difficult to appreciate the genuine richness of life in its imperfect yet deeply meaningful state. Recognizing the source of our expectations. Unrealistic expectations rarely emerge from thin air. Instead, they often arise from deeply ingrained messages communicated by society, media, culture, and even those closest to us. We find ourselves influenced by social pressures, comparing our journeys to idealized portrayals we see online or in entertainment. These external narratives subtly shape our perception of what success, happiness, or fulfillment should look like. When our lives inevitably fail to match these exaggerated portrayals, we feel inadequate or as though we have somehow fallen short. These gargantuan expectations blur our vision, preventing us from seeing our own genuine strengths, accomplishments, and unique qualities. The courageous act of letting go. Freeing ourselves from unrealistic expectations requires extraordinary honesty and courage. It involves confronting ourselves openly, without judgment or denial, and asking important yet difficult questions. Are my goals truly mine, or have they been dictated by others? Do these expectations uplift me or burden my spirit? This process demands introspection and authenticity, a willingness to strip away layers of social conditioning, illusions, and superficial desires, exposing the core of our true aspirations and passions. It means honestly evaluating whether our expectations are genuinely aligned with our deepest values and dreams, or whether they have become oppressive burdens that limit rather than liberate us. Accepting imperfection and embracing reality. This journey toward authentic expectations is far from a fairy tale. It's often gritty and challenging, involving the uncomfortable acceptance of life's imperfections and, crucially, acknowledging our own limitations and vulnerabilities. It means redefining success not as reaching a perfect destination, but as growing, learning, and evolving along the way. Embracing this realistic perspective allows us to create meaningful, achievable goals rooted in self-awareness and authenticity, rather than fantasies that set us up for inevitable disappointment. Each small step forward, every moment of genuine self-acceptance, becomes a powerful affirmation of resilience, courage, and true personal strength. Finding beauty in the unpredictable journey ultimately, the magic of life does not lie in flawlessly meeting every expectation, but in embracing the unexpected twists, turns, joys, and challenges that arise along the way. When we release unrealistic expectations, we become free to fully appreciate life's authentic experiences, both the joyful moments and the inevitable struggles. This openness enriches our perspective, teaching us to cherish life's inherent unpredictability as something to be celebrated rather than feared. By approaching life with realistic yet hopeful anticipation, we develop the resilience needed to navigate its uncertainties, keeping our hearts open and ready to experience every profound and beautiful moment that comes our way. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 11. The deceptive allure of gossip. At first glance, gossiping can seem harmless, even appealing, a quick and easy path toward connection with others. It often begins casually, wrapped in intrigue or curiosity about someone else's life, mistakes, or secrets. We may find ourselves drawn into these conversations, sensing a fleeting sense of belonging or intimacy as we bond over shared criticisms or juicy stories. However, beneath the surface, gossip quietly erodes something deeper within us, our integrity and our trustworthiness. Reflecting honestly, think about the last time you participated in gossip. Did it leave you feeling genuinely uplifted, or did it subtly leave behind a residue of discomfort, guilt, or a nagging sense that you'd compromised something valuable? Understanding the hidden impact of our words. Words hold immense power, capable of shaping realities, relationships, and our very sense of self. Imagine each word you speak as a seed that falls into fertile ground. Some seeds blossom into beautiful gardens of trust, compassion, and kindness. Others spread invasive weeds of negativity, mistrust, and resentment. Gossip, no matter how trivial or justified it might feel at the moment, often plants the seeds of negativity, seeds that quickly take root, choking the possibilities of genuine connection and understanding. In contrast, when we deliberately choose conversations filled with kindness, empathy, and respect, we cultivate fertile ground where meaningful relationships can thrive. Challenging ourselves to shift our mindset. Resisting gossip is undeniably a challenge. It requires mindfulness, discipline, and sometimes even bravery. Gossip can be tempting, especially when we feel justified in our judgments or when the group around us eagerly participates in negative chatter. However, each moment we find ourselves on the edge of gossip presents a valuable opportunity for growth. Next time you feel compelled to speak negatively or listen to harmful chatter, pause for a brief moment. Consider the humanity of the person being discussed, and remind yourself that behind every story lies a human being who, like you, experiences joys, struggles, mistakes, and triumphs. Imagine how you would feel if your own vulnerabilities or lowest moments became the topic of idle conversation. This simple reflection can be enough to stop negativity in its tracks, redirecting your words toward compassion rather than criticism. Creating a culture of empathy and respect. Choosing not to engage in gossip isn't merely about avoiding negativity. It represents a deeper commitment to respect, kindness, and the inherent dignity shared by everyone. It's about recognizing and honoring our common humanity. Each time you refrain from gossiping, you send a powerful message to those around you, a message that genuine connections are built on empathy and trust rather than judgment and negativity. By leading by example, you become a beacon, inspiring others to follow suit and choose a kinder path. This commitment transforms not only your conversations, but also the social environment around you, nurturing communities rooted in genuine care, support, and mutual respect. Embracing meaningful connections. Ultimately, shifting away from gossip creates space for something much more rewarding, authentic, meaningful relationships. Conversations focused on genuine understanding, encouragement, and positivity build lasting bonds rooted in trust and sincerity. Choosing this path allows us to form connections that uplift and inspire, leaving us feeling genuinely fulfilled. When you actively choose empathy over gossip, you illuminate a brighter, more compassionate way of relating, one that honors both your integrity and the dignity of those around you. Let's move on to the next thing. The thing number 12. The hidden grip of the fear of rejection. Almost everyone has encountered it, yet few openly discuss the shadowy, unsettling fear of rejection. It quietly shapes our decisions, influencing how we speak, act, and even dream. Perhaps you felt that sharp tightness in your chest before presenting a bold idea at work, the hesitation hovering before sending a vulnerable text, or the instinctive urge to diminish yourself before someone else has a chance to dismiss or reject you. This fear extends into every corner of life, from pursuing career ambitions to revealing romantic feelings or voicing long-held dreams. While rejection itself is a normal and inevitable aspect of human experience, the dread surrounding it often holds us captive, preventing us from truly living authentically and courageously. A Stoic perspective on rejection. Ancient Stoic philosophers like Epictetus offer profound insights into overcoming the fear of rejection. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become a revered philosopher, once famously observed that it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. According to this wisdom, rejection itself isn't inherently harmful or devastating. Rather, it is the meaning we attach to rejection that shapes its impact. When someone declines your proposal or rejects your affection, it does not define your intrinsic worth. Instead, it reflects that person's own perspective, desires, limitations, or needs, factors entirely beyond your control. The real danger arises when we internalize rejection, constructing narratives of inadequacy, unworthiness, or failure. These self-made stories become a heavy burden, diminishing our sense of value and hindering our growth. Recognizing where true power lies. Marcus Aurelius, another influential Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, wrote insightfully in his Meditations, "If it's not under your control, it cannot harm you." From this viewpoint, the fear of rejection stems not from the actual event, but from our tendency to give excessive importance to external opinions. The true harm occurs when we surrender our inner peace and self-belief to someone else's judgment. The Stoics remind us that while we can't control whether we're accepted or rejected, we hold full control over our responses, attitudes, and interpretations of the event. Rather than seeing rejection as evidence of personal failure or inadequacy, Stoicism encourages viewing it as valuable feedback, guidance, or even redirection toward a more suitable path. It becomes a constructive signal rather than a crushing verdict. Embracing courage over avoidance. Instead of desperately attempting to avoid rejection, the Stoic approach involves bravely stepping into it, not recklessly or arrogantly, but with calm readiness and emotional resilience. A Stoic mindset doesn't expect constant acceptance or validation. Instead, it anticipates growth, regardless of the immediate outcome. Facing rejection with calm confidence transforms the experience from something fearful into a meaningful opportunity. Whether you receive a yes or a no, the essential victory comes from having the courage to genuinely express yourself and pursue what matters most to you. It is not the external outcome, but your willingness to take action in the face of uncertainty that truly defines your strength. Turning rejection into growth. When viewed through the lens of Stoicism, rejection is no longer something to dread. Rather, It's a vital element of life's ongoing process of self-discovery and personal development. Every rejection becomes an opportunity to refine your direction, clarify your purpose, or strengthen your character. By reframing rejection as a constructive experience rather than an indicator of failure, you reclaim control over your emotional well-being and self-worth. You begin to see rejection as a teacher, guiding you toward greater resilience, authenticity, and self-awareness. Ultimately, the Stoic perspective empowers you not only to face rejection without fear, but also to approach life with courage, openness, and a willingness to continually grow from whatever outcome comes your way. Let's move on to the last thing. The thing number 13, the invisible burden of misplaced responsibility. Throughout our lives, many of us unconsciously shoulder a heavy burden without even realizing it, taking responsibility for things that were never ours to bear in the first place. From childhood onward, we're often praised for empathy, kindness, and selflessness. We're taught that being helpful and considerate are signs of character and moral strength. While these virtues are indeed admirable, the boundary between genuine empathy and harmful self-sacrifice often becomes blurred. Many of us start to internalize a sense of obligation to manage other people's feelings, reactions, and even their approval. We may find ourselves anxiously working to keep everyone around us happy, smoothing out conflicts before they arise, and desperately trying to avoid disappointing anyone. But in the process, we quietly lose touch with our own emotional health, experiencing exhaustion, anxiety, and eventually burnout from the impossible task of controlling others' emotions and perceptions. The Stoic wisdom of clear boundaries. Ancient Stoicism provides a powerful perspective on how to address this emotional burden, clearly distinguishing between what lies within our control and what is not. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized the importance of drawing a distinct boundary between our own responsibilities and those belonging to others. He famously taught that inner peace and emotional clarity come from understanding and respecting these boundaries. According to Epictetus, each of us is solely responsible for our own thoughts, actions, values, and intentions. This is the domain where true responsibility lies. Conversely, the feelings, interpretations, expectations, and emotional reactions of others are entirely beyond our control, and therefore, beyond our true responsibility. If someone is upset or disappointed due to their own unrealistic expectations, or if they react negatively due to their own emotional triggers, these are reflections of their inner states, not failures on our part. Recognizing the harm in carrying others' emotional weight. Trying to carry responsibility for other people's emotions and reactions is akin to attempting to swim while burdened with someone else's heavy backpack. Eventually, the weight becomes overwhelming, pulling us under. Not only do we suffer emotionally from the strain, but we inadvertently deprive others of valuable opportunities for personal growth. When we consistently step in to manage or rescue others from their feelings, we prevent them from learning how to manage and navigate their own emotional experiences. This unintentional enabling perpetuates unhealthy patterns where boundaries are unclear and personal accountability is diminished. True compassion and empathy involve supporting others without absorbing responsibilities that rightfully belong to them. It means trusting others enough to allow them the dignity and growth that comes from managing their own emotional journeys. Embracing authenticity over people-pleasing. A Stoic doesn't strive to please everyone or control the uncontrollable. Instead, they seek to live in alignment with their own authentic values, guided by reason, integrity, and self-awareness. This approach to life allows them to clearly discern the limits of their responsibility. They understand that while they cannot control others' perceptions or emotions, they always retain control over their own responses and behaviors. Letting go of the illusion that we can manage everyone else's emotional state frees us to live more honestly, authentically, and peacefully. It allows us to establish healthy boundaries and communicate openly, ensuring our interactions remain genuine rather than transactional. The liberating power of conscious boundaries. When we finally release ourselves from the guilt and pressure of managing responsibilities that never belong to us, we experience profound freedom. This newfound clarity is not about becoming indifferent, detached, or uncaring. Rather, it's about becoming deeply conscious of where our responsibility genuinely begins and ends. Establishing clear emotional boundaries brings inner peace and self-assurance, qualities that remain unshakable even in the face of external turmoil or disapproval. This clarity empowers us to respond to others with empathy and compassion without compromising our own emotional health or sense of self. Living consciously and authentically is not cold or selfish. Rather, it's a profound act of wisdom, allowing both ourselves and others to thrive independently, yet compassionately side by side. By embracing these 13 powerful principles, we can cultivate a mindset characterized by resilience, empathy, and positivity. These guiding ideas not only foster authentic personal growth, but also lead us toward deeper, more fulfilling connections in our relationships and communities. If you felt inspired or empowered by this video, please don't leave without giving it a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated and connected with our growing family of resilient, determined, and unstoppable individuals. Share this message with someone who truly needs to hear it, because when we support each other, we master the art of transforming every challenge into our greatest strength.